Broadcasting from the heart of the nation, the next generation in conservative talk radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Why, yes it is. What is up, my friends? Hey, welcome into it. You made it. It's a Friday. Pat yourself on the back, brother and sister and other. We finally got to the end of the week. I know you're excited about it. Get ready for another weekend. A hot one at that, but I guess global warming is here because climate change happened for another season, right? It's what we do here on the show. Welcome into it. It is the Voice of Reason. My name is Andy Hoosier, broadcasting right here out of the heart of the nation in Wichita, Kansas, on our flagship radio station. We are all over the country. So many great radio stations, plus TV, live streaming, podcasting. However you watch or listen to us, welcome aboard. Do it live. Your Millennial General reporting for duty like we do every single day. I was looking through headlines, getting ready for the show just minutes ago, and then I have my prep where I know the topic, the generalized topic that we're going to go, and then see where it takes us down this rabbit hole each and every day. But then right before the show, I always like to get just a quick headline brief of if there's anything breaking or weird news. And on Fox Business, I saw this headline that popped up right out of the gate. Real estate inquiries by wealthy New Yorkers looking into properties in the state of Florida jump by 50% after Zoran Mamdani officially wins the primary race with over 50% in that type of election style with the ranked choice voting that they have, that people, wealthy New Yorkers looking at real estate in Florida, and those inquiries jumping up by over 50%. Sorry, Democrats. No! Your social experiment's already failing before you even get your candidate into office. That's kind of funny. If that's not an indication of what's to look forward to with New York, when they're already on the trend of about ready to just, decimate that city with how bad progressive values have been, with gun policy and with homeless policies and with immigration and refugee status policies. I mean, they have already just taxed the hell out of everybody there. And with a socialist that openly says you shouldn't be a billionaire, that there should be no billionaires out there, or that you shouldn't be successful, or we're going to tax you and we're going to make you the brunt of paying for everything. Probably not the best strategy to go for. So well done. And look at that. The social experiment already beginning to fail for Democrats, and they are not happy about that one. Kind of funny. All right, welcome into it. We bottom of the hour. Richard Harris will be on the program. He is the executive director for Truth and Liberty, truthandliberty.net. We're going to talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill. We'll talk about getting the economy back on track, talk about getting the nation back on track. We may dabble into the Epstein issue a little bit because that one is just not going away. And show of hands, if you're driving home, if you're listening to this later on the podcast, show of hands, how many people are really tired about hearing Jeffrey Epstein and hearing about the Epstein files and the lack of transparency? I think most people are. But that's where we start off the show today because there is a lot to discuss.
What's trending today?
If you have not heard, apparently there's a shakeup right now with some of our law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, where Deputy Director Dan Bongino for the FBI has walked away, at least temporarily, took a personal day today on Friday from his job because, well, he's not happy with the way that Pam Bondi and the Attorney General's office is handling the transparency when it comes to the Epstein file list. Now, I know this has been a topic of discussion for everybody, and everybody's got their opinion from, well, it doesn't really matter, Trump's right, we got way bigger fish to fry, to this is one of the campaign promises, we want to see an end to this, we want the information, which is going to bring back maybe, just maybe, a little bit of trust back into these government agencies. We don't trust them at all right now. In fact, outside of if it was other than just Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, if it was anybody else in there right now, any other lower staffer for the FBI that tried to make a statement, we would laugh at them a little bit, and then we would go about our day because we know that it's probably full of malarkey, and we wouldn't trust them at all. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino hold a little bit more weight to us because they were the ones calling for it the same way that we were. So when they came out, what was it, a month ago, 2 months ago, did a podcast and said, Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself. We've been to this prison. We've seen the video. We're going to release it. What we have, you're going to have, as long as it doesn't expose the victim of this situation, you're going to see everything. And when we heard that, I'm like, all right. You know what? It's kind of weird, but if Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself, I'm open to listening to that and believing it because these guys are ones that we hold weight with and that we actually trust to some degree. So I'm open to hearing that, but we want to see the information. We want to see it. And then the whole blow up this week with the cabinet meeting And Pam Bondi saying that, well, we really don't have much more information. There's not really a list of clients, and that's about it. I don't know why we're still focused on this issue. That's not what I said before at the interview. I had this whole binder thing that we did a while back showing all this new information that was really the same information that we had before, and that was it. And MAGA world is not going away. And Donald Trump doesn't quite understand because, rightfully so, want to be very clear, rightfully so, Donald Trump has way bigger fish to fry right now. This is the job for the law enforcement agencies. This is the job for the Department of Justice. This is the job for these other leaders that need to be focused on this issue, along with many others, but this issue particularly, while Donald Trump saves the world with peace agreements and with trade deals and with economic bills and with cutting spending and with getting legislation passed and with foreign policy and with everything else that he's doing. That he has been, by the way, the most popular, second most popular president in modern American history and the number one most productive president in the 6 months already in office. That being said, CNN did the story today. Caitlin Collins calling in live on CNN to report on Dan Bongino missing in action in office today.
It remains to be seen if he actually follows through with what he has told colleagues. But what we do know is that Dan Bongino has told people he is considering resigning as the deputy director of the FBI over the fallout that has continued ever since this memo was released last Sunday. The anger inside the MAGA base has only continued to grow instead of going away, as some officials inside hoped it would. And now our colleagues, along with Christian Holmes, Tanner Rabinowitz, and Evan Perez, we're hearing that he's considering resigning after they had this heated confrontation with the Attorney General Pam Bondi over the handling of this earlier this week. And basically there was a meeting at the White House where the FBI Director, Kash Patel, was there, the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. They were questioned about whether they were part of a story, that there was basically some infighting over how this came out, and this memo that said we're not going to be releasing any more information related to Jeffrey Epstein. And I should note that we are told Bongino denied leaking any story to this outlet that it was reported on. But there has been a lot of fighting between Attorney General Pam Bondi specifically and the leadership over at the FBI over who's to blame in this situation.
Okay, so that audio from CNN, that was Caitlin Collins just earlier today with Dan Bongino missing in action in office today. Here's where we're at. And I know that, does this really affect everybody's life? Not really, but at the same time, is it important? Yes. Is it a campaign promise from Donald Trump? Yes, it is. And this has become, we have to admit what this is. The Epstein file issue is really the scarecrow generalized issue of corruption at the federal level. Politicians, powerful people in the world, doing shady things that they're not supposed to be doing, harming humanity in ways that we're not supposed to be harmed, child trafficking, sex trafficking rings, things that are going on. This is the scarecrow. This is the big mask that encompasses essentially that entire topic into one, which is why it's so important for many within the MAGA community. We want answers to this one because we feel, or at least many feel, that if this case is resolved and we find the culprits behind this that led to Jeffrey Epstein having millions of dollars, being able to own an entire mansion, able to own an entire island, and people flying there left and right and hearing about hundreds of victims that were at this island. If we're able to stop them, then maybe we can stop it in the future, and that maybe we can end the human trafficking world that is underground across the entire globe. This is an encompassing of so much ugliness and horribleness in the world that it is important. Do we want taxes to be lower? Do we want the gas prices to be lower? Do we want the economy? Yes, we do, and we want Trump to focus on that. This is important, though, too, because this is for humanity in order to know that bad guys are actually being brought to justice. Now, I am not, as you know, on this program, we're a bit more logical thinking, we're a little bit more rational thinking. I don't like knee-jerk reactions. And Dan Bongino has sometimes a bit of a history of doing knee-jerk reactions. If you remember when he did his radio program, he stepped away for almost 2 weeks from his radio show during the COVID pandemic because his syndicator wanted to force people to wear masks or get vaccines or whatever in order to work for the radio syndicator. Not going to name which one it is. And Dan Bongino was very upset about that and ended up walking away in protest against his own contract with his radio show. So he's got a history of this. That being said, it sounds like right now this is the perfect kind of pressure that's needed in the DOJ and in the FBI to really put pressure on what Pam Bondi has done, because Pam Bondi, it seems like right now, is the one that has done the massive PR bust here that has done the flop for the media to describe what's going on in here. And Dan Bongino and Kash Patel have been trying to be very transparent, saying as long as it doesn't incriminate somebody or expose one of the victims, that you're going to see the same information that we have. And then when Pam Bondi turns around and says, yeah, we're not releasing any more information, that's it, everything's out there, this is all you're going to get, didn't really help. CNN speculation, by the way, was just the fact that this is just the MAGA crowd not happy, and this could be the end to the MAGA community, which it's not. It's not. Again, we just need to remember, let's calm down for a minute. And we just have to realize we have to put pressure. We are up against a decades upon decades old machine that has been the most classified government ever, censoring content, not releasing public transparency to the general public, and we have to fight this machine that's going to be a while. Megyn Kelly, by the way, came out and talked about her prediction that Pam Bondi may not be there as the Attorney General for much longer.
Megyn Kelly's going viral for going full savage mode.
This is, by the way, that was Benny Johnson with him playing this clip here.
Would pretend she's giving new information to some of the president's most loyal advocates in the press. Either Pam Bondi knew she was about to embarrass some of his most loyal surrogates out there, or she didn't take the time to make sure what was in those binders. She was too lazy to actually figure out none of this is new. And yet she called a meeting with the influencers that included Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, and the sitting vice president. So she's either lazy and incompetent, or she willingly humiliated some of the president's most loyal supporters. Neither one of those is good, and that's why I'm sorry, but I'm going to predict her days are numbered as a member of the Trump administration.
That would be really interesting. Here's what's wild to me, and why I don't understand why this is so difficult. I get it. Just because someone went to the island doesn't mean they were partaking in the festivities. Just because someone's on the plane doesn't mean they were partaking in the festivities. Totally understand it. At the same time, having some type of list of knowing who associated with Epstein very closely, who visited the island multiple different times, you have an inkling that you know what was going on there. We just went through an entire, decade, maybe less than a decade, a good almost decade, let's say near decade, of a Me Too movement, where women were coming out and making false claims about men, some real, some not real. The not real ones were kind of piggybacking off of the whole movement that said if any woman accused a man of anything ever whatsoever at any point, then they were automatically a victim, and the guy was automatically guilty without due process, without a trial, without anything. They were automatically, because men were evil, horrible pigs that were the ultra-masculine ones that were harming society, and that just by looking at a woman, you are automatically raping them with your eyes, and you're a horrible human being. So we've withdrawn from that and pulled back from that a little bit and said, wait, we need some due process, which is good because that's what we need in society. But if we have these hundreds of victims, how hard is it to go to the victim and say, who was in the room when you were involved with these activities that you were a victim of? They give the names, we do an investigation and see how many times they visited Epstein Island, and then voila, all of a sudden in our stockings, we have a nice Epstein list where we can actually see everybody that was accused of, and then you give that to the public. And we start the investigation, and they can deny it, and we can go through the courts or whatever, but there it is. Merry Christmas, we have our list. You talk to the victims, and then you compare that to the number of times they were at the island, and then you can start releasing names. That's all we want, man. Give us something. Pam Bondi's locking this down. I agree with Bongino on this one. Put some pressure on her. I don't know if it'll work, but let's see if it actually happens.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. When reason meets radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yeah, reason, common sense, rationale. I know everybody's fired up about this issue. We want answers. I don't know why that's wrong. That being said, it is a Friday, man. Come on, let's have some good news here, shall we? There is some good news. President Donald Trump is regarding this issue, human trafficking, child trafficking, and all. Donald Trump saying that with the immigration issue in particular, we have been able to stop a lot of the child trafficking that we were seeing at the southern border. So that's good news.
You know, something that you should have that you haven't reported. As you know, 300,000 children are missing. Right? 300,000 under Biden. We've already gotten back 10,000 of those children, and we have a lot more planned to come back. We're getting them back by the thousands. But 300,000, And as of this morning, over 10,000 we've gotten back.
Well, that's good news. So, all right, we're getting children back. I know there's a lot of child trafficking or children just disappearing in Russia with the ongoing conflict between Russia and the Ukraine, and that's another issue as well. I don't know what the deal is with wanting to steal children all the time. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that's why with this Epstein issue in particular, it is so important for so many that we want answers. We want some kind of arrest. We want some type of transparency. I say it all the time. God bless Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna in the transparency task force that they have with her, with Nancy Mace, with Marjorie Taylor Greene. A lot of them are working, but a lot of them are freshman Congress elected officials, and they have limited ability. And a lot of these agencies aren't turning information over. They want to turn over the information for Epstein or for 9/11 or for the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, which, by the way, is coming up this weekend. That's pretty wild. And all these other issues that we've been hiding for so long. Our government hides more than I think any other government on the face of the earth, and that's a problem. And we need to bring that. So we'll continue to put the pressure on, but everything's going to be all right. That being said, speaking of children, by the way,
what's trending today?
I am in full agreement with U.S. Senator Mr. John Kennedy that talked about AOC, Jasmine Crockett, these other left-wing, radical, progressive, not-so-smart individuals with his operation that he launched called Operation Let Them Talk. Because they sometimes they say the dumbest stuff. And in the ongoing battle, we're going to have a sounder, I think, for this entire segment itself at some point for the reality TV show of the Democrat Party and the race for leadership through the Democrats. Sometimes you have to let them speak. And Jasmine Crockett is one that really you can let her speak because what she says is literally an argument for us and against what she's even trying to advocate for. Her latest one when it comes to the electoral system and the public education system.
Connect the dots. Most people voted the wrong way because they were uneducated, and that's not to call them dumb, but literally life sometimes is life, and you're trying to keep a roof over your head, keep food on the table.
Wait.
Say what?
Wait a second. Hold on. Let me get that straight. So people are voting the wrong way because they're uneducated. Now, I have to ask the question. This is just for you and I, the rhetorical question we have to ask on the radio. Democrats, I want you to really, truly ponder this one. If people are properly uneducated because the education system's failing them, who runs the education system? Hold on. I almost got it. I think it's Democrats. Democrats might run that one through the Department of Education, through the different race-baiting different programs that you have, through the wokeness in higher education, through the demonization of conservative principles, through the identity gender politics that you promote in your public education system. So if the education is failing people to not be smart enough to properly vote, kind of pretty much have to agree with that one.
Connect the dots. Most people voted the wrong way because they were uneducated, and that's not to call them dumb.
I would have to agree with Senator John Kennedy on that one. Operation Let Them Talk, because they say the dumbest things, and yet they are the most smug out there.
They think that they're competent. They're not. I would hire the guy who salts the fries at McDonald's.
That's the words of wisdom I think we needed today for a Friday. Good golly. When we come back, Richard Harris, Executive Director for Truth and Liberty. We'll chat with him about the One Big Beautiful Bill, maybe a little bit about the Epstein list. Can we get some more information and transparency in the government? Are you optimistic that we will finally get answers on, well, anything? We'll do that when we come back. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. Truth, reason, and common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
There's so much fear, which is part of the Trump Kash Patel. What they want to do is they want to intimidate and threaten people. Look at what they're doing now with Comey. This is all a way to weaponize the law. If you stand up against us, if you speak against us, we will bring the full course of the law. And even if we don't win, we're going to destroy your lives by causing you hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal bills, reputational damages. We'll send a Twitter horde against you.
What are you talking about right now? Hold on. Wait a second.
Say what?
That was Cory Booker, by the way, on an interview. So we know that the progressives like to gaslight. They like to be the ultimate narcissist, the ultimate temper tantrum throwers right now, the fear-mongering from the other side, which is why we have people out there throwing rocks at ICE agents, covering their face, being physically assaulting them at riots down there in California right now, at that illegal marijuana house or whatever it was, that they have created the ultimate fear. That's why there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump just a year out. As of coming up this Sunday is the 1 year, I don't like to say anniversary, but the 1 year remembrance of what the heck tried to go on there and how close we were to losing President Donald Trump. So hold on a sec. Cory Booker says that Republicans are creating fear mongering for their agenda.
There's so much fear, which is part of the Trump cash patel. What they want to do is they want to intimidate and threaten people. Look at what they're doing now with Comey. This is all a way to weaponize the law. If you stand up against us, if you speak against us.
Okay, I would just like to remind you that, you know, whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. Want to do childish thing that, right? I mean, this is it. What did they do to Donald Trump for the last 10 years? What did they do for him for the last 4 years? Trying to put him in jail, trying to destroy his businesses, trying to keep him off the ballot, trying to do whatever they could. The ridiculousness of keeping him in court and spending massive amounts of money for crimes that Donald Trump, because he's a 30, however many convicted felony charges against him, whatever. And they're out there saying, oh, James Comey's an innocent victim. Insane, man. Do people buy it? Do people actually go for this stuff? I don't know.
What's trending today?
Let's shift gears. Happy to have on the program to chat about the one big beautiful bill. What's going on in the country? Can we get this nation back on track on all different fronts? Really happy to have on the show. He is the executive director for Truth and Liberty, which you can find online at truthandliberty.net. Really happy to have on here Richard Harris. Richard, how are you, my friend?
Hey, doing great. Good to be with you.
Yeah, appreciate you jumping on. I know this is not what I brought you on here for, but I got to pick your brain on this. I mean, these Democrats, the Donald Trump's spreading the fear-mongering, right? Donald Trump's dragging them through the mud with hundreds of thousands of dollars in court cases with James Comey and Brennan and these guys. Donald Trump's the one trying to intimidate others, right? What is this?
Yeah, that's a classic Marxist projection right there, where they're accusing us of exactly what they're guilty of. I mean, they're the ones that are out there in the streets torching cars, breaking windows, threatening police officers, actually shooting police officers. They're the ones that for 4 years went on an unrelenting campaign against Donald Trump and all of his surrogates, actually throwing them in jail and other things like that. So give me a break, Corey. No one's going to buy that, I'm afraid.
It's absolutely insane. Are we getting the country back on track? And it goes in with the one big beautiful bill. But I mean, Donald Trump this week has been ranked the second most popular president in modern American history for the last century. He's also been ranked as the most productive president, whether people like the productivity or not. He's doing more than any president that we've seen in probably the last century as well. And we're only 6 months into this administration, the latest obviously being the passing of the one big beautiful bill last weekend during 4th of July. Are we finally getting the country back on track?
You know, I think we're definitely headed the right direction, Andy. I just did on my show an episode, just recorded it with Donald Trump's accomplishments, and I'm telling you, it was like 6 pages of notes, line after line of the things that he's gotten done. It's absolutely amazing. But you know, it's not just him. It's the country as a whole. I think people are waking up; their eyes are opening. I think there's actually an awakening taking place as people have. You know, what's happened over the last 6 to 8, actually go all the way back to Obama, the country has had laid before them good and evil, right and wrong, and they're able to choose now. They can see clearly. They don't trust the media anymore. They don't trust the leftist politicians anymore. And young people are coming back to reason and to God, and I think we have great days ahead of us, actually.
That's really exciting. Now, let's talk economy for just a moment. Is the economy getting back? I mean, we started off really rough, I know, at the beginning of the year. Right out of the gate, I mean, we saw gas prices go down dramatically. This is the best gas prices that we've seen in 4 years since when Donald Trump actually left the last time. Inflation still lingering up there right now. It's going to take a while. Interest rates are still relatively high, and I mean, is there trust in the economy right now? I know there's the uncertainty with the trade and with the tariff talks, but outside of that, is the economy coming back, or are we on that uptrend? It's just going to take a little bit more time.
You know, I think it is coming back. There was significant growth in blue-collar wages last month. more than had been seen in 60 years. I think inflation is now down just under 2% even. The report below that showed that the last report under Biden was 3% annual. Now it's down to 1.9%. So the Fed has got to move. The interest rates, Trump doesn't control that, but they have got to start coming down. I believe they will. And when they do, that's just going to pour fuel on the fire. And we're going to see things take off. The naysayers and the hand-wringers were saying, these tariffs are going to cause inflation. That's clearly not happening.
Yeah.
But the markets are still a little spooked about all that. But what Trump is playing is he's playing a long game here, and it's kind of a game of chicken. Who's going to blink first? The United States of America is the largest and most profitable market in the world. Every other country has far more to lose than we do. And so if we stand strong and say, guys, we're going to insist on free trade, but it's got to be fair trade, then I think eventually we're going to come out ahead in this. The whole world will come out ahead, and we just have to be patient with Trump's strategy. I think it is working. We just got to give it some more time.
Yeah, I would agree. And for anybody to play the game of chicken and see who's going to blink first, Donald Trump is a master of that game because of the art of the deal. So yep. I do trust him on that. The weird part is, Richard, is I don't get it. We hear these stories about consumer sentiment going downward, people not trusting the economy, businesses not wanting to spend money, or people not wanting to spend their own hard-earned money. But at the same time, I live in Kansas, where our flagship station is here in Wichita, Kansas. I just saw a report statewide that Kansas's sales tax revenues were skyrocketed for the month of June, like 7% higher than projections, a massive amount because people spent more money than what was expected. Well, and at the same time, consumer sentiment right now nationwide is still on the downward trend. We're getting like mixed reviews going on here.
Well, job growth. Last month, we added 141,000 jobs to the economy. The month before that had to be upgraded. They keep, they're having to add jobs. Under Biden, they had to take away jobs. They would come out with these monthly reports. So I think the market is strong. It takes a while for attitudes and awareness to catch up to that. But I think consumers are still feeling the high interest rates, and the Fed needs to start coming down on that because that's affecting the housing market and lots of other things. And so I just believe that these things are going to work themselves out here, and probably as the year progresses on, as you said, he's only in office 6 months. Come on, people.
Right.
Let's give him a little bit of time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking with Richard Harris. He's the Executive Director for Truth and Liberty. You can find it online at truthandliberty.net. Also host of the Truth and Liberty Show as we move forward with the wins and losses of this one big, beautiful bill, getting the economy back on track. Yep. Outside of the economic side, I mean, we always say I did not like the fact that we raised the debt ceiling $5 trillion. I don't like the fact that it could potentially raise the debt by $2.5 trillion, although according to the Congressional Budget Office, they weren't projecting any type of economic growth. And you know as well as I do, Richard, that if you're cutting taxes $5 trillion in the country, we know there's going to be economic growth in there. So I'm not too worried about raising the debt. I just don't like raising the debt ceiling. But outside of the economic side, it seems like just about everything else that Donald Trump promised on the campaign trail was sealing the border, resources at the southern border, building the wall, doing this stuff. All of that was in the bill, wasn't it?
Yeah, the funding for the border wall is in there finally. You remember back when the Democrats started selling off parts of the wall that we had already purchased.
It's sitting there rusting, yeah.
But yeah, absolutely insane. But yeah, the wall's going to be built. Trump's already closed the border effectively. We had 6,000 attempted illegal crossings last month, 6,000 detentions at the border, compared to Biden's 220,000 per month. So that's effectively sealing it, and that is going to do wonders for wage growth in this country, for national security, for everything else. We're talking one of the biggest issues in this one big, beautiful bill was the Medicaid reform. Yeah. And, one of the largest pieces of it was taking illegals off of Medicaid. Now, the Senate parliamentarian of all things cut that out. So that's not in there. But you know what? As Trump deports illegal aliens and we close the border, those payments, even in blue states, are going to be coming down over time. So and we haven't even factored that into these savings. So I think that it is a net good thing for the country. I hate debt. I wish that we could cut more. But the way things are structured in Washington right now, and with both majorities in the Congress being so thin, it's really not, this is almost better than we could have expected. So I think we need to be pretty pleased with what the Republicans have accomplished here.
Yeah, we are very happy with that. Now, like you said, the next step is trying to do more cuts. I know there's a rescission bill in Congress right now floating, and I believe sitting in the Senate to try and codify some of the DOJ cuts. There are a handful of Republicans that are refusing to support this for whatever reason. I don't know why. Richard, can we actually get Republicans on board unifying, which I think would be kind of common sense for us to say, hey, we need to start cutting back on the size of government?
You know, we always hear this, right? The media likes to play up the controversy, and then eventually most Republicans will come in line. The ones in the Senate we've got to worry about are the typical problem child, Collins from Maine, Murkowski from Washington or Alaska, and so on. But if the cuts are reasonable, are they really going to take a stand, to preserve these? Hopefully not. I think phone calls from Trump and pressure from leadership ought to be able to do the trick. And I think there's going to be a series of these clawback bills, as you're referring to them.
That would be nice.
And we're going to see, several billion in savings from those.
Yeah, I tell you what, Richard, we got to take a hard break here. Can you stick over one more segment with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Be
awesome. I love it. Richard Harris, Executive Director for Truth and Liberty, truthandliberty.net. We'll continue some of this conversation, the future of the country, when we come back. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. America's safe space for common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
So they briefed me numerous times, the FBI, the Secret Service, sort of everybody. DOJ, Pamela's doing I think she's doing a fantastic job. But they briefed me, and I'm satisfied with it. They should have had somebody in the building. That was a mistake. They should have had communications with the local police. They weren't tied in.
All right, so that was President Donald Trump. So that interview, that full interview, I guess, being dropped on Fox News later on this weekend, but his sit-down with Laura Trump on her Fox News, talking about the recap of July 13th, 2024, Butler, Pennsylvania, the assassination attempts. I love how he's so just blasé and calm about it now. And in fact, that clip goes on to talk about how everybody else had a bad day because they were trying to handle everything. They had the bad day. What are you talking about, man? You had millimeters of a bullet whizzing by your head, which was really scary and, of course, divine intervention on why we're still seeing President Donald Trump where he is today. But it's so weird. As we talk about transparency and the whole Epstein issue right now, trying to find information about the Epstein files, we have this investigation going on with the assassination attempt. And a year later, now we have 6 Secret Service agents that are suspended that are anywhere between like 10 to 42 days of suspension. A year later, and nothing else. We don't have any other information. No other information on human trafficking issues. No other information on, whatever. The only files that we've seen are the JFK files on that assassination. Outside of that, really haven't seen a whole lot. Right now, we're hanging out with Richard Harris, Executive Director for Truth and Liberty, truthandliberty.net. Richard, I know this again kind of off a little bit here, but any faith in bringing back transparency from the federal government to get answers on so many of these issues that we want to know about right now?
Andy, I feel your pain on that. I really do. I definitely want to know about those issues, especially the Epstein thing. It doesn't make sense how the Attorney General was acting just 2 months ago and the things she was saying, and now for them to say, oh, there's no list. And that sort of stuff, it doesn't quite add up. And, Trump administration needs to be more forthcoming or people are going to lose confidence, lose credibility and that sort of thing. But, if you compare what Trump is doing and how he's handled his administration to Biden and Obama and Clinton and all those guys, it's night and day. I mean, Trump brings in reporters in at every opportunity, freely answers questions.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not as detailed as they like and so forth, but, we can see a whole lot more now about what's going on in our government than we did under Joe Biden, where we had the whole, deception about his mental status and everything else that went on. It was just one thing after another. So we're not there yet. but we're better than we used to be.
That is very true. We are more transparent, way more transparent than ever. Donald Trump speaks to the media any chance that he gets. Are you optimistic that at least at some point, I know, again, we're only 5-6 months into an administration with these people in these positions, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Kristi Noem, RFK Jr., we're early in the stages here of doing this massive reform of hitting the reset button in D.C. and overturning the tables, essentially. Are you optimistic that at some point we will get the answers on these issues and get an Epstein list and to understand what happened during the assassination? And even my favorite is, of course, to get some information finally on all of our dark secret UFO and UAP documents. I want to know this information. Do you think we'll actually get there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm concerned about it. I think once the government digs its heels in like that, it takes a fight. It usually takes a legal fight. And the other thing is, politicians, they always talk like this, and once they get in power, this is when they begin to want to hold their cards back and hide things. So Trump's people may be going that direction. As they see more, then they're less willing to reveal it. But, there's organizations out there like, for example, Judicial Watch and others, and we have the FOIA technique and stuff like that. So I'm sure they're going to go after it. Conservatives need to hold Trump's feet to the fire on his promises for transparency. Absolutely. We're entitled to know what happened, what we know about that assassination attempt in every detail. Unless there's some kind of legitimate, bona fide national security interest involved.
Yep.
But hard to imagine what that would be that the people of this country couldn't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully we won't have to wait 60 years like we did with the JFK assassination.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, Richard, we got about 20 seconds left here. Are you optimistic that Trump will be just as successful in the next 3.5 years as what we've seen in the first 6 months of the administration?
Good question, Andy. That's up to the American people. We've got to rally. We've got to get organized and stay involved and stay focused because the 2022 midterms are actually right around the corner, and we've got to hold on to Congress, actually increase our majority if Trump's going to have any hope of actually being effective.
Yeah. So what it's about, truthandliberty.net. Go and check them out. Richard, we appreciate it, my friend. Keep up this fight. Let's get you back on and do it again real soon.
All right. Great, Andy. Thank you so much.
Great stuff. Appreciate it very much. Have a wonderful weekend. We're back at it again on Monday. Make sure to check out the syndicated program on the weekend as well. Until then, be your own voice of reason. This is The Voice of Reason. I'm Andy Hoosier. We'll see you on the radio. Bye.